But what we must see here is that Abram is a fool, but God is full of grace. Like God is still fulfilling his promise through Abram. He's blessing him even when he's a fool. Some of you have looked around and you go, man, that guy or that girl, like they're really acting like a fool. They're not really following Jesus, and I just don't understand why like things tend to work out for them and not for me. Because we do this comparison thing in the United States, like we expect that God needs to treat you in the same way he treats me, but really God's working on a different thing in them and working on a different thing in your heart. You got to understand that, but we don't. So we compare, we contrast, we get bitter, we get angry, we get mad, we get jealous. And through that, to all the jealous, all of the sin-filled men and women that God has called to himself, he's still abounding in grace, even in our foolishness. And so the thing I want us to see here is that God is faithful even when we are foolish and faithless. Verse 17. But the Lord, God, Yahweh, afflicted Pharaoh. God's like, I'm not letting you give your wife away, Abram. That was a dumb plan. I need to fix it. My kids do a lot of dumb plans. As a father, I have to fix a lot of things. We must see that we are God's kids. We act like a fool. We're like 3-year-olds more than we are adults. In his house, so the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. If you remember, original audience, listening in on this, they just came out of Egyptian slavery. They just got rescued out of there. How God sent plagues to torment the Egyptians. They're going, dude, he did this before. Whoa, we know about this. We know about this. Like God did this back then? Oh man, this is kind of cool. I mean, you got to be thinking if you're like the original audience going, man, plagues, these are not cool. Egypt got them twice? Wow, God must really want us to be rescued from them and not be enslaved to them. Indeed, he does. Great plagues came because of Sarai and Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram. He said, what the heck, dude? Why did you tell me this was your sister? What have you done to me, he said. Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I have took her for my wife? Now then, here's your wife. Take her and go. I imagine this conversation wasn't going over well. Like the ruler of the land, you've been sojourning, you've been living. There's still a famine. And so he comes out, man, I blessed you. The Lord afflicted me. Just see this. Pharaoh blesses Abram, and then he gets afflicted because of Abram. This is crazy. Just thinking about the complexity here. The point is that God is the protector. God is the faithful God. Even when we, all humans, are foolish and faithless. Even when we are foolish and faithless, God is faithful. We must see this. This is a divine intervention. God, no one can thwart God's plan. Abram can't, Sarai can't, Pharaoh can't, nobody can. I want you to know this. In this day and age, no ruler, no principality, no spiritual realm of darkness, nothing in all creation can thwart God's plan. For you, for his church, nothing. You're like, it just looks like a lot of darkness and a lot of, we probably live in a world that's more like Abram in here. We're just looking at things, I don't know how it's going to play out. I just don't know how it's going to play out. I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm looking at, it just doesn't look well. And Abram's learning for the first time that even when we are foolish and sinful, God's grace abounds. Even when we are faithless, God remains faithful. And that's true to even this day. Does that mean, though, that we should be foolish on purpose so that God's grace abounds? Like, absolutely not. Paul says this to the Romans. Like, should we sin so grace may abound? No. Will it abound even in your sinfulness and folly? Absolutely.